Good morning and welcome into the Pats Nation. I'm Corso. Catone is here. Joe is with us in the booth. You are watching us on YouTube, listening on 790 The Score, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, anywhere you podcast. You can catch us. Joe's putting up on that screen. Subscribe, give us the thumbs up, get all our notifications, and email us in our mailbag, corso.catone@gmail.com, or you can call us in heated hotline, 855-313-PATS, P-A-T-S. Have a take, leave a message 24/7. Give us a call. Got a good one. Hey, coming up at 1 p.m., the Patriots going to be playing the Chargers. The Chargers, and we are your first pregame show of the day. Right after us, stay on 790 and pick up the Patriots pregame show right up until the game. But we're going to talk Coach's Corner, a little bit of QB breakdown. Going to go into Pat's preview, give our keys to victory, and, of course, try to make some money on Sunday spread. Gentlemen, how was your Christmas, guys?
Oh, it was wonderful. Just wonderful. Listen, for those of you who want to hear how my Christmas is, tomorrow you have to tune in to CORSO CATONE because we flipped days this week because of the Patriot game that's going to happen shortly. Listen to CORSO CATONE tomorrow and listen to how my Christmas went.
And how about you, Joe?
Oh,
I know how his Christmas went. It always goes the same every year.
Hey, just different food option.
Yes.
Christmas was good. Santa was good. You know, I mean, what else is there but spiked eggnog and silly season times? You know.
So, Joe, what do you spike your eggnog with?
You know what?
Everybody has a virgin they spike it with.
I hadn't had it in a long time, and someone gave me one with I think it was a brandy. I think it was VSOP, the cognac.
Okay,
and it was good. It was good, and I don't know the actual brand it was,
but it was cognac. Okay,
it was just handed to me. I'm like, okay, I'll drink that. So, you know,
all right.
You're done talking about drinking? I mean, all you guys want to talk about is drinking over here. You know?
Listen, we're going to tailgate, aren't we?
Well, listen, and everybody's out there tailgating today, and you know, with the way the season goes, maybe we should be talking about the drinking a little bit more. You know, but everybody out there, make sure you're drinking responsibly. Make sure you drink responsibly in the parking lot and everywhere else, and
get a ride share, get an Uber home.
Get us a call in heated hotline from the parking lot. But we got to talk about this game today against the Chargers and some of the things in the coaching room. And we're going to do it in a Coach's Corner. We're going to do it now. Coach's Corner. Okay, Mark. So, you know, and we're going to talk more about the coaches tomorrow on Corso and Catone and, you know, who should go, who should stay. So stick around and listen to that. But as it relates to this game coming off the Buffalo game, Mark, they showed up for these guys. And we're going to play Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal in a second. But they showed up, didn't they, for this coach?
They did. They showed up for their coach. And you know, in May's press conference after the game, he talks about the respect that they have for AVP and for Gerard. And so, yeah, they showed up. I think it was a combination of, they showed up, but I think Buffalo kind of took the foot off the pedal a little bit. They had a tough 4-week stretch. I think they knew they didn't have to put it in overdrive to beat the Patriots. The game was probably closer than it should have been, but yes, you can say they showed up, Chris. Yes, I have a lot of other things I could say about it, but I'll agree with that.
They're not family friendly.
No.
This is a family show. Yeah, I mean, look, they came out with fight in the first half, but then in the second half, and I'm talking about the coaching now. They were coaching when I say they come out with fight, the coaches came out with fight.
Well, they were coaching. I think they're coaching for their lives, Chris, because their jobs are definitely on the line. No matter what anybody says, their jobs were on the line these last 3 games.
And you can tell they're listening. They're listening to everybody out there. Yeah. You know, because like I told you, when I talked to Gerard Mayo, you could see it. You could see it on his face. He understood. I understood right away. This guy's feeling the pressure and the stress.
Yeah.
They did a decent job in the first half, but you talked about This is more Buffalo. See, but this is the thing. Buffalo let down in that game. They did. And look, I know we're going to hear everybody say, you guys are always negative. You're never going to give them props when they need to get props. Look, we'll give them props. Okay?
Yes,
we'll give them props. But we also have to call balls and strikes over here, not to change sports. And the bottom line is Buffalo didn't show up for that game.
No.
And Allen had some issues and things like that. Did they do some good things? Yeah. But
they didn't, Chris, but you mentioned the second half briefly too.
Yeah.
And as always happens, there were adjustments made by the opposing team, and our staff situationally, Chris, just can't make those adjustments. Whether it's Van Pelt, Covington, Mayo, the adjustments just don't happen on our side of the ball. AVP starts out hot. Buffalo, I think, dug in a little bit, got a little more focused, did make a few adjustments, and we had no, as you say, change of pace, fastball, whatever you want. We didn't change anything, Chris.
Well, let's hear from Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal. Joe.
Largely, this game from 10,000 feet, certainly the first half, was all we've been sort of looking for this season out of this group, out of Gerard Mayo, Alex Van Pelt, DeMarcus Covington. Play tough, present some issues against a team that's not imploding and not the Bengals in week one when they lay their annual egg. And, largely we got that today.
Yeah. So he's giving them some props. Okay. Seeing some things. But what he's not talking about, Mark, is what we just started talking about, which is, okay. Yeah. Largely we saw some good things. We saw some decent things. Okay. But we also saw our second half stuff of game situational football again. Your onside kick instead of kicking deep with the timeouts, right? You're calling time, Mark. You talked about timeouts. You're talking about timeouts because of delay of game.
Yeah, he called two, Chris. He called 2 timeouts because they were going to get delayed games in the course of that game. That can't happen, Chris. That's situational football. That cannot happen. Right. Mapu picks the ball off in the end zone. The only reason he's not tackled in the end zone is because his hand happens to fall just outside the end zone line. Like, situationally, he's dancing back there. You put your knee down and go to the 20-yard line.
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, the past regime, okay, these are those little situations that Belichick would go over with these guys over. And you hear it from past players where they talk about it constantly, where they're like, my God, Bill used to drive us crazy over here. Used to drive us nuts about, all these situations, all these things that are never going to come up at a game. Never, ever, ever going to come up at a game. Well, when it would come up, you knew. I mean, look at the Super Bowl against Seattle, okay, where the Malcolm Butler interception. Well, that didn't just happen by chance. They practiced against that play all week long, and Butler kept screwing it up and going over the coverage, and Belichick was chewing his ass out. Yeah. And in the game, he did it right.
So, Chris, but they did do some different things, though, right? So they came out. They must be listening to the show because you've been screaming for weeks.
Everybody.
Why don't they do an RPO with May at the goal line or down in red zone? Hey, they run an RPO last week, Chris.
They did.
Talk a little bit about that. They run an RPO. They red zone offense, but then they revert back
in the second half.
In the second half, they revert back to the old inside the red zone, plays.
Yeah. I mean, you did. You saw a nice RPO from Drake May. You saw some different types of motion. They didn't motion as much as they did in, looked like against the Cardinals. They were trying to do too much. Like they were overcompensating, trying 2 different motions, trying that motion and then orbit back, and all of these things. It was a much more simplified pre-snap situation, which bothers me too, because if you got to do that, that means your coordination isn't good. That means your coaching isn't as good. If you have to go backwards, if you have to dial back the motions and the disguises and all those kinds of things. But no, they did some good things, Chris, in that first half. I have a quick
question for you, which you and I have not brought up.
Yeah.
Is that because they don't know if Drake May can consume all of that, do you think? Or that's just what Van Pelt is running?
I think it's been settled that May can consume and handle as much as he can. Now, maybe they're trying to protect him a little more by not running him as much. I know you didn't ask that specifically, but maybe they're trying to do things like that. Maybe that's a mandate. Didn't sound like it from Mayo after the Cardinal game that was what they were trying to get done. But no, I think he can handle it. I don't think the coordinators can handle it. I don't think the message is getting through. No, let me rephrase that. I don't think Monday through Friday through Saturday, it's not being imparted on the players properly. So they're not practicing it right. They're not teaching it right. And so when you get in the game and you see the mistakes that are happening, to me, that's a Monday through Saturday issue.
And that's a lack of experience, Chris, on this entire coaching staff, because at just about every position coach, it's the first time they've ever done it, Chris.
And not only that, I don't think there's
no, you're right, but I don't think there's another team in the league, Chris, that has this many first-time position coaches on one staff. So, that goes to what you just said about pushing them. Well,
yeah. And I want to get back one point last week, because you and I, after the game, and I heard a lot of people giving him all kinds of props. We just heard Greg Bedard talking about it, but Phil Perry of NBC Sports Boston kind of agrees with us a little bit. Joe?
Phil, what did you think about the overall coaching and play calling from this game?
Again, I'll start with the players and I'll start with the turnovers, but I think there are a handful of decisions that are leading me to question them after the fact. And again, Mayo, I think, took questions on just about all of these situations, but they had the questionable, in my opinion, a 4th and 6 punt with about 8 minutes left. It felt like there just wasn't enough time for them to be able to give the ball back to Josh Allen. And I know they played well defensively in this game, and maybe that's what they were thinking. But that's a situation where, boy, you onside kick. They had 3 timeouts left. Don't you want to try to pin them deep? And if you can stop them back to back to back plays and call timeouts, you might be able to get the football back in decent position to go put points on the board. No timeout after Keon White. This was about 4 minutes left in the game, or a little bit more than that. Keon White tackles Josh Allen on a 3rd down, and they don't call timeout.
Yeah. So things that we're talking about, things that we're talking about that are still showing up in week. What the hell are they doing? 17, 18 weeks now in week 16. Okay. That shouldn't be happening. And so to your point, so when we talk about, and I want to talk about today's game a little bit, but everybody's looking more to the future now. Everybody's looking more towards, all right, what happens next? I mean, we know that the season's in the toilet. We know that they're going to be picking top 3 and all that is happening. But did that save his job? Because we talked, like Phil Perry just said, and we talked about too, there's still a lot of little mistakes going on in that during that game. But did that performance save his job, Mayo?
I don't know, Chris. I think you're going to see in this Chargers game what this team looks like, and if they get pushed all over the field and they get blown out at home. Like, I just don't know if they can have another bad loss at home, Chris. And I'm interested to see, Chris, how many fans actually show up today. Next week. They're going to get a break next week, Chris, against Buffalo, because it doesn't appear they're going to play anybody, because Kansas City has now wrapped up home field. So, so that kind of screws us a little bit in regards to draft order. And it screws you in the fact that, okay, so can you get a picture of, is this saving his job or not? You could very easily win the last game of the season because Buffalo's going to play nobody. And I would argue you shouldn't be playing May the last game of the season. You should be playing Joe Milton.
Would you guys agree that this game today is the real test, because the Chargers are 9-6 and they're playing for a playoff spot, so they have to win. They have to clinch this game today.
Right.
But this is the true test of everyone, right?
Great point, Joe.
Agreed. Yeah, and that's it. And so today will be the last test of this coaching staff for the season. So if they're going to make an impression, it's got to be today. They made a little bit of an impression last week, although I will argue that it was more about Buffalo than it was about them.
Oh, I definitely would argue that, Chris. They had guys dropping touchdown passes. They had guys dropping passes up the sideline. They were open, for 30, 40-yard gains. So, yeah, I would argue it was more about Buffalo than New England last week. However, to Joe's point, I think this is the last chance, Chris, that they get to say, hey, we can do better next year and see how the team reacts to them.
it's a chance for Mayo to sit there and say, okay, situationally we're clean. We handled timeouts right. We handled the middle six. We handled the middle eight, last 4 minutes and a half, first 4 minutes of the third quarter. We handled that properly. Onside kicks, punts, when you do it, all of this stuff. That if it's clean, fine. And then looking at the offense, looking at Alex Van Pelt, look, he at the beginning of that game, it looks like he was listening to Booty and all the noise, because Booty said, we're disrespected and we're playing, they're playing man against us, and they're playing man against you because you can't get any separation, and they know it. The Cardinals, who played the number 2, they're the number 2 team in the league and playing zone. They come and play man against you, while when you got off the bus, they started playing man. You know what I mean? And because you can't get separation, you fool. So, but Van Pelt heard it, and they did get the ball down the field more. They were more aggressive. Now today, I think you need to see more of that and letting May cook, like we talk about.
Yeah. And Chris, they actually had Baker on the field on some plays last week. And if you watch the film, they actually tried to get him deep, but he couldn't get separation. So,
Yeah.
but they tried to. It appeared that was what he was running. So to your point, Chris, I think you're going to see more of that this week. They might let him bake. He threw the pass up the sideline to Bourne as well.
Right.
Last week against Buffalo. I think you're going to see more of that this week, Chris. Listen, I would go some no huddle with this kid this week. I would speed up the game. I would, because I think you're going to, that's something you probably need to do against Harbaugh's defense anyways. Harbaugh's defense is going to bring pressure from different locations and different angles, and they disguise pressure well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely try to speed the game up, as you said, Chris. Let them cook, and that was the one thing I thought they could have done in Buffalo, Chris, as they got that hot stop when they came out of the half. As Buffalo made some adjustments, I would have went to some no huddle and changed the pace a little bit even more. And they didn't do that. They didn't go that next step.
Well, the Chargers, they hit Bo Nix about 6 times. They sacked them twice. So, I mean, they'll get there.
Yeah,
they got Bosa on the outside. They got some, Khalil Mack, he's long in the tooth, but it's still a presence, with this offensive line, So the offense, I'd like to see some things different. I want to see Alex Van Pelt. I want to see you stop. You don't need to put 5 guys in the pass pattern every single time it's a pass play. Hold the tight end in. Give it the skies. Let him be another lineman blocking. Put 4 guys out. Stick another wide receiver on the field, and instead of go empty with one tight end. Keep him in the block and put 4 guys out there. See what it's like. Do all the things. If we see things like that, that's progress. I don't think we're going to, but that's what. And on defense, Mark, again. Look, the Chargers last week, they rushed for 117 yards. I don't know if they had, let's see, turnover-wise. So, I mean, they'll turn the ball over a little. Dobbins is still not playing, right?
No, I don't believe he's playing this week.
So, and like Joe said, it's a game they need. It's a game they need. So Chargers had 1 turnover. It was an interception last week. So defensively, it's the same as we talk about every week. Okay, you got to stop the run. And they've had trouble doing that all season long. And that's the first order of business. Okay, now I'm not that worried about Herbert getting out of the pocket, running all over the place.
No, but the Chargers will run the ball.
They will run the ball. And that's what they want to do.
And they got a rotation of backs that they use. It's not just one guy. And he likes to do that, Chris. So that's going to be an interesting thing to watch, because we have struggled against the run, no matter who it is.
So there's no need to spy with the safety or do any of that stuff. I want to see how the safeties play without having to have that situation where I want to see them mix up their coverages, and I want to see how they are against play action. Those are the things. But you're going to have to get some pressure. You're going to have some good timely run blitzes.
What can they do against this running game of the Chargers to try to slow it down? And maybe because the Chargers don't have the receivers they've had in the past. How about clean that room out a little bit before this, during the offseason? What can they do to try to stop this running game a bit?
Control the gaps better and set edge. Control the gaps better, set edge. Jennings has been very disappointing in setting edge this season. So set edge better, force it all in the middle. And, linebackers got to fill properly. They got to make their defensive lineman right. He goes right, I got to go left. I mean, fill the gaps properly. Don't guess, don't choose. And safety's got to come up and disguise it. Disguise some good run blitzes. And you should be able to slow it down, force them into throwing the ball, getting it down the field, because I like how our secondary's been progressing. So let's see if we could put it in their hands to try to win this game. So coaching-wise,
this is a team.
It's about disguise. It's about mixing it up.
Okay, because the Chargers, Chris, are not a team with any real dominant receivers.
No.
So, yeah.
No. So you should be able to walk some of these safeties up and have 3 to 4 back there instead of nickel and 5. So we'll see what happens. But Coach's Corner was presented by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. CorsoLawGroup.com allow us to be your voice. And we come back, going to go into the quarterback room. QB Breakdown is next.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys.
Back in with the Pats Nation, Mark. I didn't get anything I wanted for Christmas,
Oh, what do you need? You're a dinosaur. You shouldn't get anything anyway.
Yeah, I just don't want anybody to bother me. That's what I need.
Well,
Don't bother me.
That's a whole other issue.
That's an issue for Corso Catone. Make sure you tune it in tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern in our normal time slot. But we want to talk quarterback. Want to talk a little bit of Drake May for a few minutes. Let's do it in QB Breakdown. Joe.
Okay, now.
Hit it, boys.
Hit it, boys. All right, let's talk about Drake May. And before you and I get into it, I want to set it up. Let's hear what Drake May had to say after that game.
Drake, got to follow what Phil said. The fact that there were 14-point underdogs coming in, they're 11-3 or 3-11, a lot swirling around AVP this week and even Gerard. How good was it for the team to come out and kind of send a message that you got the coaches' backs and you can go out and battle a team like that?
Just trying to block out that noise. I think it's a bunch of conversations about our coaching staff and stuff like that. I think it's some BS, to be quite honest. Coach Mayo, those guys. Coach Mayo's, we got his back, and he's coaches hard. He wants to win. We all want to win. We're all frustrated. AVP's been, I feel calling great past weeks. We're just plays away, and especially me turning the ball over. I think it's just a testament to these guys that keep fighting. We keep fighting. We're not going to make the playoffs. We're out of the race, and these guys keep coming in, and I'm frustrated when we don't score, and they got energy at practice, and they got energy coming to the game, and we want to win. There's guys not even playing that are yelling on the sidelines and wanting to win. So I think we're building something good, building something that feels right here, and I'm proud to be a Patriot.
Proud to be a Patriot. So
Okay.
he says
So
all
he
the right
says all the
things.
right things.
Yeah, says all the right things. He's definitely he's shown up this year. He's shown his leadership. He's shown his ability that way to hold the locker room together. The guys seem to respect the hell out of him. But now he's in his last couple of games of the season. Okay. And he's gonna have to put his big boy pants on come this offseason, because it's time to start giving him some crap too. He's going to have to stop feeling the heat. And I'm sorry, but this region is very forgiving of this guy because he's a rookie. He's got a lot of talent. And let's face it, we're a beaten dog over here. We've got him beaten up for the last 4 or 5 years now with this team.
And Chris, you brought up a point yesterday to me when I said he's a rookie. You said, and so isn't Gerard a rookie.
Yes.
Right? But yet he's not getting the pass, right?
Yeah, he's
so
getting tortured on it.
Yeah.
So listen, he's accurate. Look, his accuracy, I'm not concerned about his accuracy. I think his footwork is improved. He hits that back step. He climbs the pocket. He spins his hips on play action really well. His eyes are downfield, progressions, all of it. But his decisions, Mark.
Yeah. Well, listen, what's he got? Like he's thrown an interception in 7 straight games, something like
Something
I
like
think
that,
it's
yeah.
something like that, Chris.
Too
So
many.
his decision making, it's and this game against Buffalo, Chris, May even calls out the fact that typically he would try to dance the line a little bit with May, but he came right out and said, "Yeah, it was a bad pass." You know what I mean? And then he complained about the fact that it probably should have been PI on the receiver. But that's that's a whole other issue. So he calls out May for the pass. That's a bad pass. May calls himself out in the press conference. My question to you is, okay, so this is happening now 7 weeks in a row. Everybody's giving AVP, and I don't know, maybe Matt could do behind the scenes for the work they did with May to get him ready, to get him where he's at. The kid's progressed. The kid's in a much better spot than a lot of people thought he would be coming out of the draft, but yet he's thrown interception 7 straight weeks. Do we call out the coaching for not fixing that part of his game, making those types of decisions? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm sure that the coaches aren't saying, hey, put the ball in jeopardy, I'm sure they're telling them, look, if something's not there, throw it at their feet, get out, get it out of bounds, even take a sack if you need to take a sack. So I'm sure that message is coming across. This is inside him. This is who he is. He wants to make a play, and I love that about him. I really do. But you're now getting to the point. But yes, you can coach your way out of those kinds of things too. Here's how you help him. You help him by your type of play calling. You help him on how you're calling a game and how you lead up to certain plays and lead up to help him get his decision making as a progression throughout a game. Do you know what I mean by that? Like if you're calling certain plays, they're a little bit easier to make decisions. The progressions are easier, and you just keep building on building and building. It's a habit. Everything's about habits, So when you get into that situation in the red zone, because Mark, his poise overall is really good. I mean, he's got poise. He's not rattled. Nothing seems to bother him. But when he gets it, when he throws picks like that one in the red zone when they were down 3, bad interception. I don't blame him for the lateral pass. Whoever called that or whatever design that was. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson, my God, catch the damn ball. But
and he has to, Chris, as a quarterback, realize, okay, this is,
get out of that play.
That was a bad, bad throw, bad play. But you're right. Why are you even calling it, Chris? You're right.
But point. On the interception, when you were down in the red zone, it was Mac Jones-esque, his panic on that play.
I'm glad you brought that up because you really haven't heard anybody say that it was Mac Jones-esque, right? And that's a real good point. Explain to me the panic, Chris. When you say, the panic, what happened on that play?
Sees the pressure coming, knows Hooper's now. Hooper slips, so I'm not really sure, but he sees it. He knows Hooper's there or he's going to be there. He starts feeling it coming. I think it was coming from his left or maybe into his face. And then his footwork went bad. He kind of stepped on his back foot and just threw it, to avoid that hit. That's what Mac Jones would do. Now, that ball should have been thrown to the pylon in the back of the end zone, but you can't do that from your back. It was just a mess. From his read under center back was a mess at that point. And so that's what I feel like, Yeah.
Yeah.
But today, how does he build? I mean, continue to have the poise, right? Would you love to see him not turn the ball over today? That's the big thing. No fumbles.
Well, I was just going to say, Chris, you can't turn the ball over. He can't throw another pick. No fumbles, no strip sacks. He has to protect the football today. He has to. But the other thing I'd like to see is I'd like him. We keep talking about his maturity for his age and his leadership. I'd like to see him perhaps go to AVP and say, listen, speed the game up. Come on. I can handle it. Speed it up. I want to see some no huddle. I want them to speed the game up so that Harbaugh has to make some adjustments. He can't run his traditional defense based on the film he's seeing. They haven't done that yet, Chris. No. That's the next step in this process. Go to no huddle. Speed it up.
And if all you're worried about is protecting him, then just bench him. Put him on the bench then.
But Chris, the
strip sacks bother me more though than the interceptions. I will tell you that.
Yeah, but Chris, by speeding it up, it might help the protection.
I agree. It has in those games. Arizona, that's the only way they move the ball is by speeding up the game.
Chris, why does the strip sack bother you more than the interceptions?
Bothers me more because interceptions, like I said, can be fixed just by your reads, just by your progressions, things like that, how you see the field. Strip sacks, the way you protect the football, the technique you use in bending over and protecting that ball, I don't see it as much as I should. That's what bothers me a little more. There's a lot more work to do there when he starts feeling that pressure like that. So, so we'll see. I mean, for him, it's a positive. He's a positive. Everybody knows that. Let's see how he does today. And then we could talk about it when the season ends as far as what he needs to help him. But QB Breakdown was presented by Corso and Catone, Saturdays, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern, where we have Catone's comments. We got Yankees, Red Sox, B's and C's. And, hey, tune in tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern, where Corso and Catone will be in our time slot, 8 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you're tuning into that for our Patriots review and so much more. But when we come back, going to go Pat's preview, talk about keys to victory, and so much more. No flipping. The real deal New England field. What does that mean? We're like you. We're going to bitch about everything.
My opinion, our draft, the good, the bad, it was ugly.
These people, Mark, drive me freaking insane. Bananas.
It's so frustrating and aggravating. I can't take it.
The real deal New England field. It's going to be real. Oh, it's going to be real, all right. It's going to be real, all right. Wait to tune into Catone's comments tomorrow. I'm sure that will be real, Joe, right?
Yeah.
It always is.
You know it. You know it.
But let's get
to pick on me, Joe.
That's going to be my New Year's resolution to not pick on Mark anymore. But who we need to pick on is this team, and we need to pick on the Chargers today and figure out what we need to do in our keys to victory. We're going to do it in Pat's preview. Let's do it now.
Pat's preview.
All right, Mark, let's talk about the offense a little bit. We'll talk about the coaching, some of the things we want to see from Alex Van Pelt to do a little better. Gerard Mayo in situational football as it relates to offense and defense. Talked about Drake May. Let's talk about the wide receivers because Booty seems to be progressing some if he can get his big mouth out of his, his shoe out of his mouth enough to pay attention to his play. Yeah. But are these guys, how are they going to finish here? What do they need to see out of them?
I'd love to see something out of Jalen Polk, Chris, but he's basically irrelevant. He was on the field a few times in Buffalo. Like, this kid is just a train wreck. I mean, I guess he needs an offseason to try to get his head straight and start over again from scratch. I think Booty, however you want to pronounce his last name, Booty, I think, Chris, needs to continue to do what he did last week and progress. And Van Pelt needs to, in the passing game and in the wide receiver room. But this week, you need to throw the ball down the field, Chris, and continue to try that and do that and spread the ball around. But I think they had Baker on the field a few times in the Buffalo game, Chris. They tried to send him deep. He obviously didn't get enough separation, couldn't get open. Maybe you could try to work him into the game plan this week, the last 2 weeks, just to see what you got to work with in the offseason. And, I don't know. And of course, the guy that you bring up every week, Douglas, their offense just isn't conducive to him. I don't think, Chris, having a big game. Yeah. It's just not, this isn't the offense that's going to happen. So with that said, do some no huddle, Chris. Boutte seems to be able to get open in the seam, Chris, off the line for some reason. He catches that seam route in the middle of the field when they need like a 36.
Especially on play action. Especially on play action, Mark. I mean, when if they can run the ball a little bit, you get some of that play action. I'd like to see some crosses. I'd like to see the middle of the field open up a little with Pop Douglas, just to see it. I want to see that speed, that 10-yard speed that he's. I'm telling you, he's one of the quickest in the NFL from 0 to 10 yards and getting some separation. But you don't use it that way.
It's amazing.
There's no rubs. There's nothing like that.
It's amazing to me that they've never tried to expose that speed, Chris. Like that's a major flaw of this coaching staff that they haven't done that with him. And like I said, the kid Polk has become irrelevant. So I guess with him, you're not going to see him. And then of course you still have your tight ends. They always have two tight ends on the field a lot of the time, Chris. So in the passing game offensively, you're going to keep seeing them, and I'm okay with that, I guess, because that's just it's going to happen. You can't say, "Oh, take him off the field," because he doesn't. It's a staple of this offense. But I want to see Gibson on the field more. He can give you a little bit of what guys like Montgomery and Gibbs give you in Detroit, like the kid Cook gives you in Buffalo. It's a different speed. It's a change. It's different. What he can give you in the passing game out of the backfield. Ramondre Stevenson puts the ball on the ground again last week.
Oh.
Listen, limit his touches, and Chris, you got to be plus turnovers. You can't have 2 or 3 more offensive turnovers. If you turn the ball over on offense, you're gonna lose the game again. Ball security. It has to be some ball security this week, Chris, because Harbaugh's teams feast off that.
Yeah, I mean, you're not good enough. You're not good enough to absorb turnovers and still win football games. Look, last week, Bo Nix in the Denver Broncos against Chargers, right? Javonte Williams caught 7 passes. He got the ball thrown to him 11 times, but his long was only 12 yards. So I was going to say San Diego. So the Chargers can give up that middle. They'll give up that stuff in the middle. So I guess your tight ends can have a big day today. If you're not going to have Douglas handle that, geez, wouldn't you like to see a few rub routes and see some guys just clean on slants, getting through the middle of the field and see what the hell we can do with that? But if guys like that and Cortland Sutton, another guy, caught 5 passes off 6 attempts, but his long was 16 yards or 18 yards. So that may be a little deeper. So you're going to see man coverage receivers. You're going to see it. That's it. I mean, every team has done it against you, and they're going to continue to do it. Like I always say, they're going to play man against you for what? Starting when you get off the bus. That's what's going to happen. Is you're going to see them play.
And the Chargers have the safety Derwin James, Chris, who's been banged up the last couple of years. He's not as dominant as he once was. He's been banged up for a couple of seasons, but he's also a ball hawk, Chris. Yeah. So you're not smart with decision making. He will pick one off. He will. So you're gonna have
5 tackles, 4 solo. I mean, he's a guy that can read, especially the simplicity of what Alex Van Pelt does.
My God,
guy like that can have a field day coming down on tight ends because he's going to be on a tight end. You're going to see him on Hunter Henry. You're going to see him on Austin Hooper. A guy like that can come downhill and take care of business that way.
And so if you make mistakes, he will make you pay. And then offensively, Chris, the offensive line. I mean, I know he's been hurt, and it seems like he's always hurt, but he's back on the field. He's supposedly pretty healthy. You got Bosa at the edge, on the edge. He's going to come flying off the edge, Chris, like he always does. They're gonna have to. The offensive line's gonna have to play okay, and they're gonna have to account for him.
Yeah, and Jacobs, Jacobs had another tough week.
My God,
and you gotta listen. If you have to help the interior, you have to help your offensive line some. Every time, just because you have 5 receivers out there, 2 tight ends, whatever, doesn't mean you have to run them all into the pattern. You can disguise a few things. You can keep a tight end in to help on Bosa or somebody like that. And because in all honesty, it's a bad offensive line, but there have been times where the pockets have been clean and the protection's been pretty good. Greg Bedard, the Boston Sports Journal, talked about that a little bit, Joe.
Overall, for most of the game, I was pretty impressed with what the offensive line was doing, especially in terms of pass protection. I thought a lot of it was pretty good. I thought the Bills, sort of pressed the issue. They threw a bunch of different looks at the offensive line, and I would say for, well over half a game, maybe three quarters of the game, they dealt with a lot of that stuff fine. There weren't a lot of free rushers in the game where they were doing the sort of things, dropping guys out, bringing guys into the same gap where, normally there would have been jailbreaks.
Yeah. And so again, there are times when they're good, but you got to help them a little because you're going to see that from Harbaugh today. You're going to see those kinds of looks where guys are dropping, safeties are coming from somewhere else. You have a safety that turns into that ends up taking the corner, that ends up taking a corner spot, and the corner ends up being the free safety and a cover 2 look. All of that kind of stuff where you got guys coming free. This offensive line has shown that they have trouble handling that. Now, against Buffalo, they handled it okay. You know?
They did. But listen.
Don't you like to see what it's like when they give them a little help?
Yeah. But, Chris, it's just they haven't really done that all year. And then when they do keep someone in the chip, they haven't been able to do it.
No.
So it's kind of a catch-22. We're going to keep somebody in, but then they're not going to do it anyways. Like Gibson had a good block.
Good job. Yeah, I was about to say
last
that,
week,
yeah.
right? If you want to talk about that for a minute, he did a real good job picking up a couple of guys blitzing, coming through the open gaps where they just blew through. And if it wasn't for him, May would have got killed last week against Buffalo.
Yeah, I think Gibson has had a much better season than Stevenson, not just in ball protection and vision, but in blitz pickup as well, in pass pro. I mean, yeah, a lot of running backs would have gotten trucked on that, and he picked it up and saved May. I mean, saved them. So I mean, it would be nice to see some max protection a little bit more, because to see if some of those routes can come open. You can get a good look at what you got with receiver if you can max protect a little bit more, and you can free that situation up for Douglas to come free, for Booty to come free, see what you got in Baker. But you can't do that if guys are coming free from the inside. And it's been like that all season, where some games it's an outside issue, some tackle issue. Sometimes it's an interior issue where they're coming free up, where the center has been a problem too. And my God, though, penalties, Mark.
Well, they continue.
You got to stop. Yeah.
They got another one in the red zone last week, if you remember, right?
Yeah.
Another holding. I mean, it's the flag. They said flag. As soon as you saw flag on the play, you knew it was holding against us, Chris. What else would it be?
That's a product of the talent, though, isn't it?
It is a product of the talent. And you've brought this up, especially when they're off sides and they know the guy on the other side of him is better. And so you're really pressing to either it's a false start because you're trying to get an extra step on the guy in front of you because you know he's better than you and he's probably going to blow by you. And the holding, your technique is poor because you're trying to get as much protection as you can for May, even though the guy on the other side, he was a better player.
Yeah. Yeah, you better get something done on Bosa. You're talking, you had 3 tackles, 2 solo. He had a sack, a tackle for a loss. I mean, this guy can wreck. And Denver's offensive line is pretty good. So this guy can wreck a game for you.
It's going to be a problem for him.
So you're going to have to help over there.
No.
I mean, one of these tight ends is going to have to stick and stay in, to help on this guy, or might as well just bench May for the last 2 games, then play Milton or play Brissett and be done with it. If you're going to,
there's been games, Chris, when teams have had outside edge rushers like that. You look and they're just blowing by. They're blowing by us.
They make Lowe look ridiculous.
They make Lowe look ridiculous. Yeah.
So, and those guys don't need more help looking ridiculous, out there. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. And on the defensive side of the ball, so again, the keys to victory in offense, what we talk about, limit the penalties, get some max protection, run the ball well, set up some good play action, right? Try to get the ball downfield, run some no huddle stuff, catch them in formations they don't want to be in on defense, right? So, and on defense,
and no turnovers.
Right, yeah, no turnovers. Win the turnover battle. And on defense, Mark, once again, you got to be. I mean, we keep saying it's like a broken damn record, though, isn't it?
It is.
I mean,
same thing every week.
Denver rushed for 110 yards last week.
Against the Chargers.
Right. And so, no, I'm sorry. Let me back up here. The Chargers rushed for 117 yards last week off 26 carries. They were 4.2 a carry. Now, if they did that against Denver, okay, you got to be big up front. Now, they're not big up front. they're
I was going to say, they don't have the personnel to be big up front.
So how do you do it, right? How do you do it? And we talked about
how are they going to scheme? You did. How are they going to scheme to do that, Chris?
It's a scheme situation where you got to try to confuse the offense, not even confuse the offensive line a little, but Justin Herbert. Now, this is a seasoned veteran now. You're not going to confuse him a lot on protection. But you have to do something to either, shift the line, slide the line, bring your linebackers up. I liked the game where Schooler got involved in some of the run game, and some of the safeties did. But the linebackers, it's just a matter of you got to play better. You have to execute better. Yes, Covington's got to get him into good situations. Okay, he's got to get him to good positioning, where you're disguising some of your run blitzes. You're setting edge better. But that's the way to do it. You can't let these guys get out to the edge. Gus Edwards had 68 yards off 14 carries. He was 5 yards a carry and 2 touchdowns. We'll get to the red zone in a second.
Edwards is the type of back, Chris, who would probably going to gash us just because that's what he does, Yeah. And Bo Nix, Chris, last week against them. I'm sorry, Bo Nix. Yeah, right. The Chargers offense, I'm sorry, but Denver's offense, you can throw the ball. So I was right. I'm confused, Chris. Nix threw the ball. He had over 100 passing rating against his defense. You can run the ball.
Yeah. But again, to stop this running game, to stop this Chargers run game, which is the first order, because that's what Harbaugh wants to do. He wants to run the ball, Mark.
He does.
And he wants to run the ball. He wants to get to the edges. He wants to do that. He wants to gash him up the middle. He wants to pound you into submission. I mean, that's his kind of style he likes. So, again, run fits are going to make a huge difference today. Can finally our linebackers fit up properly in the run game? Can they make their defensive linemen right? Can they read gaps better? Can our linemen control gaps a little better? Can they get stronger and tougher? And these are the things that have to be done, Mike. But my God, you got to set edge. And when safeties have an opportunity, look, when the front seven play right, okay, when they're correct in what they're doing, you can't now have a safety like a Peppers or a Duggar or somebody who's the guy. He's going to be the free guy that has to get up from the inside out and make the tackle, and then he whiffs. So when they finally do it right, when everybody is occupying somebody and you got a free guy, you got to make the tackle. My God, tackle right. Christian Gonzalez is basically one of the best tacklers on the team on the outside. He is, Mark.
He dances the guy out of bounds. He don't want contact.
Yeah, but that's a technique. You got to when you ride a guy out of bounds for a 1 yard gain. That's what you do.
It's not. It's 5 yards down the field. No, you're right. It is a technique for somebody that's soft in tackling. You're right.
All I know is when I see Gonzalez come up, break down, and make a nice open field tackle, and then I see Jelani Tavai try to do it.
No, you're right. You're right, Chris.
It's sickening, to watch it. You're right. He shouldn't be good at it. When your corners are pretty good at tackling, that shouldn't be happening.
That's a problem.
That shouldn't be happening. And as far as what do you do against them in the pass game? Because Justin Herbert,
go ahead.
He threw for 2 touchdowns. He had an interception, 284 yards. So what do you do, Mark?
And that was what I was getting to before. I forgot we were still talking about the run, Chris.
You're still thinking about your nice Christmas dinner with all your gifts and toys and stuff.
Listen, please don't get into Christmas dinner, please. Tune into CORSO and CATONE tomorrow to hear that story. Listen, Nix, Chris, threw the ball well against them. He had 2 touchdowns. He threw for over 260 yards. So against
talking about Herbert.
Herbert. Herbert can throw the ball, Chris. He threw for 2 touchdowns. So, and he had 110 passer rating. He will throw. He can throw the, and the running game sets up that for him because their receivers are not as good as they've been in the past.
No, except they do.
However,
yeah,
I was just going to get to that. They are going to exploit, Chris, your middle of the field with Lad McConkey, the rookie, will catch the ball, slant, space. And the type of receiver he is, I don't think Gonzalez will be on him. That's typically not the person Gonzalez plays, Chris.
No, he's not an outside guy. He's a guy that could destroy. He had 6 receptions off six targets. So
yes,
what that tells me, okay, when I see that kind of percentage, is his route running ability.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a guy that when he stems a route, it's perfect. I mean, it's perfect. Meaning he runs up the field, he hits that top of the route, he plants, and he's on a line to where he's got to go. He creates separation better than he creates separation. He's one of the better rookies in the league at creating separation, like in the middle of the field stuff. I'm not talking about the edges.
And that's our weakness, Chris, on defense. Is it not?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's gonna happen. He's gonna get Tavai on him at some point. And it's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be an absolute mess at that point if that happens.
And if you look, Chris, at Hebert's stat line from last week against Denver, there's not one receiver. I mean, McConkey, yes, he'll catch 8 or 9 balls. But other than him, there's not any one receiver who's catching a significant number of balls. He spreads the ball out. 2 here, 1 here, 3 here. So we got to almost 300 yards passing, but he spreads the ball out among 5, 6 different guys.
10, 23 receptions last week. 10 guys caught a pass.
So that's going to be a problem, Chris, for our defense, because other than Gonzalez, who the heck do we have that you can show confidence in and say, oh, you know what? They'll be all right. And I'm nervous, Chris, that it's going to be dunk, dip, dunk.
All the way down the field.
They're just going to go all the way down the field against your defense.
Yeah. And Covington's not going to adjust. So
do you play man or zone tomorrow?
It's got to be a mix. It's got to be a mix because of what you're dealing with McConkey. If you play zone against this team, okay, that's when a guy like McConkey just lights you up because he'll find the holes. He'll sit down in the holes. He'll get the separation from the backers and the safeties with no problem. So you see a lot of those crossers, slants, things like that. So you may have to play some man because they don't have any burners that are going to get down the field and really kill you. Quentin Johnson, I mean, Gonzalez will lock him up. I'm not worried about that. So
no, he'll lock him up.
So that's what has to happen. But those are the keys to victory. I mean, those are the things you need to be doing in order to win this game today. So we'll see what happens. But Pat's preview was presented by Corso Law Group, corsolawgroup.com. And we come back, going to go into Sunday spread and see if we can make some money back for all the spend we did in Christmas. Stick around.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Call or go online to corsolawgroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys.
Back in with more Pat's Nation. So I'm waiting for Joe to do the thing he does to me every single week.
I was letting it ride for a minute just to see, and then it's with it.
That's the sound for Sunday spread. That's the sound to get to the casino and blow your brains over there, like I like to do a lot. Anyway,
Okay.
All right, Mark. Let's make these people some money in the last 2 weeks of the season. Mm-hmm. So I'll just go right to you. Start with the pin, then we'll pick our game.
Okay, so this week, I like a tease. I like Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's fighting for their playoffs lives. I know Carolina's coming home. Carolina's been playing better. Tampa Bay's coming home. Carolina's been playing better, Chris. You mentioned that they're a team who's been improving. However, I would tease down Tampa Bay. I would tease down Buffalo. And I know Allen, they may rest guys. They can't rest guys this week, Chris. They have to win this week because they lost.
Because then they're going to have to go on the road.
They lost head up to Baltimore. If Baltimore wins out, they've got 5 losses. If Buffalo loses today, this week, they got 4. They lose the last week against us, which stretch. However, they could technically end up with 5 losses and end up with the same record as Baltimore. They would have to go on the road to Baltimore. There's no way they're losing this week. They're gonna blow out the Jets, and then they won't play anybody against us. So Tampa, Buffalo, and I'm a little ahead of myself, but I'm going to tease the Chargers down. I'm going to tease them. I hate to say it for all the New England fans.
You're going to get the Chargers getting 2 points then.
Yep. And here's my New Year's Day special. New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Arizona State, tease them up. How they're getting 14 points against Texas in Sarkisian is beyond me because I think Texas is the most overrated team in college football. Arizona State plus like 19 or 20 if you tease them. And I hate to do it because I don't want to jinx them. Tease the Notre Dame game up to like 8 points. Georgia's favorite. Tease them up. Take them.
Hey, by the way, with Arizona, I don't know how the spread's that high either. With the way Arizona runs the ball and shortens the game, there's not enough clock for for Texas to win by that kind of margin.
So I would tease Arizona State and Notre Dame. That's my other pick.
Okay, so for me, I'm going to talk about a tease. These are picks I'm going to go straight up with the line. Okay, Dallas at Philly. Okay, and Philly's disappointed me every damn week. I'm telling, but they helped me last week with Washington.
Hurts is hurt. Well, I don't know if he's hurt, but I don't know if he's going to play this week, Chris. You know what I mean?
I don't care. I still think it's 6.5. I don't care. I think Philly's going to blow Dallas out. Because he had the concussion.
You don't care. Okay.
No, I mean, I don't care because I think.
No, I mean, you don't care he's not playing.
No, because Saquon Barkley's going to have a huge game. I think Dallas has packed it in and quit on that coach anyway. So they're going to go into Philly, and Philly's going to say it's always a big game when Philly's playing Dallas, and the people, the fans hate them. So I think they're going to slap that team around. I like Carolina with the points. I like Carolina's been trending up. So I like Carolina getting the points. And in our game, Mark, talk about our game. By the way, I like Indy too, even though they're giving up 7.5 at New York Giants. Go ahead.
Our game, Chris, we talked about the keys to victory. You talked about all of the things that we need to do on defense to try to stop the Chargers from running the ball. And because their offense predicates itself on establishing the run and then throwing after they establish the run. I just think that New England's too small up front. I think San Diego's going to do whatever they want to do on offense. They're the type of team on offense, Chris. It's going to be a short, precision passing game. They're going to run the ball. We'll score some. It's going to be 27-20 Chargers. They'll cover 27-20 Chargers.
So for me, okay, this spread is only 4 because of what happened with Buffalo. Take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, take advantage of it. I have my Happy New Year hat on for those of you that are listening on the radio. Tune into YouTube. Because of that spread, because of that finish last week with Buffalo, that's why it's 4. Take the Chargers in this game because I would say 30-20, 30-21. Chargers are going to win this game. So that's it. So we'll enjoy it. But the Pats Nation was presented by Corso Catone Saturdays, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. Hey, we're going to have our breakdown of this Chargers game, Catone's comments, so much more. So stick around next week and come back next weekend to this show, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern on Sundays. We're going to have our preview of the second round with the Buffalo Bills and the last final game of the season. All that and so much more. Hey, guys, Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to everybody out there. Enjoy the game.